Hey there, Legal Tea listeners. This is your host, Jenny Roselle. Welcome back for another episode of Legal Tea. Today's topic is a current trend, so something going on in the current time that is pertinent to my little estate and elder law world. For clarification, before we kick things off, this is being recorded and released in the fall of 2021. And 2020, the year 2020, was a year that many will never forget, but they wish to forget. 2020 involved the COVID-19 pandemic, and the pandemic was tragic, unprecedented, and at times it felt like we were never going to get out. And to be honest, we're sitting here in September 2021, and now we're facing the Delta variant of COVID-19, which is sweeping the nation and world. So I guess I used the word was as in past tense, that it was tragic, unprecedented. But we're very much still in the thick of things. It sort of sometimes feels like we're never going to escape. Today's topic is more of an informational one. Well, I hope all my episodes are informational. But anyways, let's dive in. According to the COVID tracking project, they have actually polled state and national data, and around 8% of individuals who reside in long-term care facilities have passed away of COVID-19. And that's U.S. specific number. That's not worldwide or anything. This statistic was pulled around March of 2021. So being a few months down the road from that, I'm unsure how significantly that has changed. I'm hopeful that due to so many long-term care residents being vaccinated, that the number has not gone up. I'm hopeful. Furthermore, according to the COVID tracking project, the data shows that the 8% actually equates to nearly 1 in 12 residents. And even more specifically, when they pulled data, that was just for nursing homes. So, because long-term care facilities often include independent living and assisted living, that's just for nursing homes. Those numbers are so sad. And the word sad does not even fully describe the gravity of things. It's heartbreaking. I have so many clients that reside in long-term care facilities, so it hits really, really close to home. Something I've found myself thinking about the last year and a half is, since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, somehow it's been a year and a half, is that the word unprecedented is used so often. But simultaneously, it does describe things well. Like many or all states in the U.S., Indiana has passed several emergency orders. And many of those orders were specifically about public health things. So things like shutting down the state, the mask mandates, etc. So there were some orders too that were sort of indirectly related. For example, our state actually allowed us to conduct signing meetings with clients of estate planning documents virtually, like by Zoom, Microsoft Teams, FaceTime. Before the emergency orders, kind of regarding this signing of estate planning, that was a big no-no. Instead, for signings, we really needed to be in the same room with the person signing the documents. And that was to try to eliminate undue influence and duress. We can't have any of that funny business going on in my world. Many people lost many, many loved ones in long-term care facilities. And whether it was a coping mechanism or not, many of those people that lost loved ones wanted or perhaps needed someone to blame, someone to point the finger at. And whether or not the long-term care facilities were to blame, many did blame them and accused them of neglect. that they did X, Y, and Z or did not do X, Y, and Z, and then their loved one caught COVID-19 and passed away. When I say the word unprecedented, let's try that one more time, unprecedented, it really was, even legally speaking. The laws were adapting in the middle of the pandemic. Not before, of course, in the middle. Literally, orders and laws were being passed to pivot with the times. Here in Indiana, our governor, Eric Holcomb, signed House Bill 1002, which effectively makes it very difficult to bring any nursing home case to a successful conclusion. Specifically, this law affects every nursing home neglect case occurring after February 29th, 2020, and before April 1st, 2022. According to Tony Cook, who's an investigative reporter at a local newspaper here in Indiana, Indy Star, Tony wrote an article about this topic. House Bill 1002 protects nursing homes from claims, quote, arising from COVID-19, which includes, quote, the reallocation of staff, delaying or modifying non-emergency medical services, and or reasonable non-performance of medical services due to COVID-19. Crazy enough, I actually only learned about House Bill 1002. As a caveat, my firm does not handle cases involving personal injury, medical malpractice, nursing home abuse, etc. So when anyone calls us regarding any of those services, whether they're a client of ours or not, we refer those cases out to attorneys that solely practice in those areas. So we had a child of a client that the client passed away, and we'd actually referred them to an attorney that handles those kind of matters. And we heard from that attorney after we referred that client over that he informed us of this House Bill 1002. And he stated that he would actually be declining the case because that House Bill makes it sort of virtually impossible to succeed at a case against a nursing home. As Tony shares in his Indy Star article, we've got one side of the aisle, we've got the nursing home residents, right? They're fearful that this sort of opens up a can of worms. That now the nursing homes can, effectively provide possibly subpar care and be protected against liability. On the other side are the nursing homes themselves, and they're thankful for this protection because it will, according to Tony's article, quote, keep them financially viable by shielding them from a potential flood of coronavirus-related lawsuits. As an attorney, I can often see and perhaps make an argument for both sides. Perhaps it's what law school ingrained in me. And this situation is no different. Personally, where I struggle is where does the line get drawn? When should the nursing home be liable and when shouldn't they? Part of me can see my clients. I see their faces, the ones that reside in these facilities, and of course I would never in a million years want to allow subpar treatment to occur and give the nursing home an easy way out. Conversely though, I have a ton of friends that work in clinical settings, including nursing homes, and I have a ton of fellow professionals that are long-term care facility staff that are working their tails off. And yeah, they probably do need some protection through these times. So where in the world does the line get drawn? Tony Cook, in his Indy Star article, shared a story about a woman who got such severe bed sores, they had to amputate her leg. Upon receiving a citation from the health department, the nursing home used COVID-19 as their justification, as their defense. The woman's son, Dwayne Zen, shared, quote, "I can't believe any sane human being would allow someone to have immunity when they're doing these kinds of things to human beings." Outside of Indiana, other states are facing similar dilemmas. In fact, in a February 2021 National Conference of State Legislators brief, there are nearly 30 states that have introduced and enacted similar immunity laws for long-term care facilities. Massachusetts is one of those states. WBUR, which is Boston's NPR news station, released a two-part story about the immunity laws in Massachusetts. In the first part of the story, they introduce a lady, Susanna Smith, whose mother, Maisie Hodges, went in for back surgery. After surgery, Maisie went to a rehab facility, caught COVID, and passed away. Susanna shared that the rehab facility did not disclose to them that there had been COVID cases at their location. Once her mother arrived, the communication between the rehab facility and the family, Susanna claims, was less than stellar. And ultimately, she only discovered her mother had COVID-19 after someone from the local health department called. Susanna claims she did not even know they were testing her mother, let alone that she would even be subject to possibly have it. Eventually, Susanna and her father had to tragically say goodbye to Maisie via FaceTime, and Maisie passed away on May 5th, 2020. In the second part of the WBUR story, they introduced an attorney named David Hoy, Hoey. I'm just going to say Hoy. I apologize, David, if you happen to cross paths with this podcast and I mispronounced your name. Anyway, so they introduce David, an attorney, who, according to the article, is described as, quote, "the guy to call if you have a problem with nursing homes in Massachusetts." So as you can imagine, his phone has been ringing off the hook. He actually estimated, according to that article, that he has heard from probably about 500 people. The issue? I'm sure you're wondering why I'm bringing this up. Well, he has had to explain to many, if not all, of those people that there is very little to be done because of the emergency state and federal laws that protect healthcare providers from most lawsuits during the height of the pandemic. So as you can see, this is convoluted. This is sticky. This is sad. This is a lot of things. And I'm not sure if there's even a happy medium. Like earlier when I was talking about that line, like where does the line get drawn? I don't know if there's a beautifully perfect answer. I'd actually say confidently there's not, actually. This is tough. This is really, really tough. While I nor my office does any kind of litigation like this, I wanted to bring this topic up during this current trends topic because it's very relevant to my world, specifically because I do elder law. I help a lot of individuals that are navigating the long-term care system. I have many, many clients that reside there. So if you are one of them and you happen to catch this, or you're their loved one, be your best, most ruthless advocate. Or if you're the loved one, be their best, most ruthless advocate. And if you are acting on behalf of someone, double check and make sure they have a healthcare proxy and advance directives in place to give you or someone legal authority to make decisions for them and to give you guidance on those decisions, what they would want, what maybe they don't want. And while you're at it, check to make sure they have a power of attorney as well to ensure someone can step in for legal and financial matters if that becomes relevant. It can become too late to #do your estate plan. It can be too late. Don't let it happen to you or your loved ones. Okay, so that's it for this episode. Next week's topic is we're back to the estate planning of the rich and famous topic. And then we're going to be talking about one of the greatest sports stars whose death was so tragic, unexpected, terrible. I could come up with so many adjectives. That was Kobe Bryant, the most recent, very, very recent. So, yeah, we'll talk about him next Tuesday, Legal Tea listeners. Until then, talk to you then and stay well.